ABC. That's what the I'm just laughing. Marketing Strategy Lab, and this is your show notes for episode 15. Jeff Koga here, and this episode is all about scared to sell, and it's about ABC. It's not American born Chinese, but always be closing. But Jason brings a great point. You know, he talks about that people are so afraid to sell. I don't understand why. Okay, but people think that selling is like some sleazeball thing with car salesmen and some sleazy things like that. No, I'm a firm believer that everything is actually sales. Is that even a kid growing up, right? Like even a little child, right? So a little child starts crying and says, "Mom, I want this, I want that," and the mom gives it to them. That's theoretically kind of selling, right? Selling them in the fact that, hey, you know what? I need to do something. I want this, so I'm going to do whatever it takes to get it. So they're selling it, right? So even if you're trying to get a job, right? So you go in the interview, you're selling yourself and say, hey, you know why I bring value to your particular company, and why you should pay me this amount of salary or this amount of income or whatever it is, and why you should hire me. So I believe sales is everywhere, but people have this negative connotation towards the salesperson. Okay, and I think we need to change that. And it was the toughest thing for me to actually learn, because I used to have this negative thing about selling. I would feel bad about selling, because I'm a pretty darn good salesperson, I think. And I was one of the top salesperson for majority of everything that I've actually been involved in. And it's a book and a concept I follow called The Trusted Advisor. So if you have never read that book, read it. And it talks about sales isn't really like something that you're trying to one up on something, right? A gimmicky stuff, or you're bullshitting. No, it's not. It's all about just articulating the benefit and solving someone's problem. I'm a firm believer that your income is directly proportionate to the size of the problem you solve and the value you bring to the marketplace. And sales is all about that. So is who can tell the better story, the context of why your product or service is better than someone else. Now, obviously, if you're a salesperson, you have some type of value or moral, compass, and saying that you're doing the right thing. I'm hoping that if you're selling a great product. Okay, if not, then that's a whole other issue in itself. So this is on an assumptive base of making the statement of saying, hey, you got a great product, then you should sell it. Okay, and the reason being is if you have a great product, then you have now a moral obligation to making sure that the masses know about that particular product, so that way you can help more people with that particular product. Okay. When I started in the insurance and financial service industry, I was very afraid to sell life insurance, because I was 18 years old and I was just like, what the heck is life insurance? I could never understand it, and I was just like, that's kind of sucks. You're basically telling someone, hey, you're about to die, or you're gonna die sooner or later, so might as well get some, so your family can make some money off of them. That's kind of a like retarded view I had, instead of looking at it as a protection. Is that because you love your family, that's the reason why you're doing that, so they don't have to go through the pain and suffering. And the only reason I had a mental shift was because I knew a particular person in high school. I wasn't someone like a buddy great friend that I knew and stuff like that, but it was someone I was acquainted to, and we were in the kind of like the same circle of friends that we hung out and stuff. And that particular person passed away. And when they passed away, it was a sad situation. He was like 19 years old or something like that, and he basically got shot at a particular party. And when he got shot, he didn't have any life insurance, right, at a young age. And obviously you don't think that you're going to get shot at that age, or even die at such a young age, right? We're not like in a third world country, right? We're in the United States, right? Life expectancy is north of 50 years. It's not like freaking 1900s where males only live like 30, like 27 or 30 or whatever it is, right? But the point is, he passed away, and their family struggled to even bury him and give him a proper burial ground. It was a sad situation. They did like car washes, they did all kinds of sell candy bars to get a proper burial. Because easily, if anyone had anyone that passed away, that it can easily cost 10 grand on the lower end, 15, 20 grand if you want to do it right. And especially if it's the last time you're actually going to see that person right before they get put in the ground. Um, you know do you really want to have your, friends and family go through that stress of trying to raise that money so that way you can have a proper burial, right? And when I felt that, when that happened to the person that I knew that I went to high school with, that's when I knew that, hey, you know what? I don't ever want to have anyone else ever go through that. And that's the story that I told everyone else, and the context that I told it. And I sold a lot of life insurance, and luckily enough, I didn't actually see a claim while I was still in it, so that's a great thing. Okay, but at least that there was security, right? So the point is this: is that if you're a salesperson, you know, you got to articulate the value, but how you sell it is one way, right? You don't want to be a hard salesman. Yeah, you can be, some people love that kind of stuff, and it like fires them up, like, yeah, but you can sell without really selling, which is to educate people on the importance of why they need to have it. But just remember this, okay? As a salesperson, I've come to realize is that the old cliche saying of what? Facts tell, stories sell. So you got to become a great storyteller, because people make purchases on emotional things, right? They rationalize it by their subconscious mind and their mind, but most purchases are emotional buys. So you have to talk that language by giving stories and context of why it's important to them, because most people are what, sensory type of individuals. If you actually look at the population, and they talk about this like on the Myers-Briggs personality test, I'm considered to be an INTJ, a thinker, intuitive thinker, versus the majority of the population is a sensory type of individual and a sensory feeler. So you have to tell stories where they can relate. So again, different type of personality, different type of style, right? Some people, if you listen carefully on the type of language that they use, they'll use things like think. That means they're cognitive, they like to think. Versus some people say I feel most of the time in their language. Then if they do that, they're probably a sensory feeler type of individual, right? Or some other people say, well, what I see happening is this, and blah blah blah. Then that they're more, their modus operandi is they like to actually visualize things in their minds first, right? So things like that. So you have to use, and I've learned certain strategies to really become better as a communicator. Things like NLP, neuro linguistic programming. That's one of the things that I actually learned, and I was this close to actually getting certified, but I just never took like that final class or whatever. But they teach you things. So if people were saying like, well, I don't think this feels right, and then you have to ask the question of things, start using their language, right? So if someone says, hey, I don't think this feels right for me, I can't buy this now, then you can't say, why don't you think this is right for you, right? Because that means that you're saying think while they're saying feel, and then versus deep down in your gut, what is it? That's things that you're actually asking. You're talking the same language. So things like that, right? And then especially if they're like leaning forward, you lean forward with them. If they're crossing their arms, you cross their arms, right? Mirroring, right? And they talk about mirror neurons in your mind and things like that. Little really, really like stuff, to some people, but if you know what I'm talking about, it's pretty cool. Google it, check it out, learn about it. But the point is, you got to be closing, and especially if you're an entrepreneur, your income is directly proportionate to how good of a salesperson you are, okay? You can't, okay, even if you do online business and stuff like that, you still got to be able to sell. You got to be able to write great copy, okay? So someone has to sell something. Now, obviously, you can hire a copywriter, but great copywriters are what? Very, very expensive, because it's so important. So you either have to become a great copywriter yourself, or you got to sell yourself, or you hire someone else, right? So again, sales is everywhere, and you gotta be closing, not American-born Chinese, ABC, always be closing. So this is Jeff Kugga with another rant, piggybacking off the Lab Rant Scared to Sell by Jason Edwards himself, and I will see you on another episode of Marketing Strategy Lab. And if you haven't, make sure you hit the like button, share this blog post with someone, and leave us a comment. We would love to hear from you, and I am signing out, and I'll talk to you then.